Alright, so this video is a translation and a recording, a discussion of Aeneid, Book 4, lines 331 through 361. And Aeneas is going to have to respond to an absolutely devastating emotional tour de force from Dido as she addresses him about all the ways in which leaving her is just so wrong. She had spoken, pluperfect, it's over with. And that guy was holding, and down as I go to the next line, we will see the word lumina. Remember, in the plural, lumina means eyes. He was holding his unmoved, having not been moved, eyes on the warnings, the admonitions of Jupiter, the things that obviously had been delivered to him by Mercury. And there's that lumina, that what he was holding, keeping his, quote, eyes on the prize, which is to obey the gods and get the heck out of Carthage. Nevertheless, and he, resolute of Nixus, was pressing down his concern, his care, his love that he has for Dido under his heart, under his chest. He knows that he cannot show this emotion, because if he does, it will give Dido hope. If she can look at him and see that he is distraught. We know that he is. It says it, that he's pushing those emotions down, but he cannot have those emotions on the forefront. At last, he says back a few neuter, plural, accusative, substantized things. And he, much like her, especially at the beginning, is going to be all over the place. I can imagine you could imagine him stuttering and haltering and not having it smooth, because he's in the moment trying to formulate the words that he knows nothing is going to make her feel any better. And so he goes on to say, I, O Queen, now remember she used things like perfide, crudelis, hospes, scumbag, heartless SOB. She, indeed, is not being addressed as queen, I think in many ways, to not only honor her, but recognize her position of power, as it were. And so, O Queen, I will never deny. So, I never will deny, O Queen, that you are accusative subject and promeritam, add an essay, creating an infinitive. I will never deny that you have earned very many things, plurima, neuter, plural, substantize, which you are able, you are strong to list out, enumerare, to enumerate by speaking. And here that fondo is in D. It's a gerund and gerundive. Remember, to be a gerundive, it needs to modify something it's not. And so again, look at his words in the word order. He's really all over the place. And why does he even add almost like a pleonasm by speaking? How else is she going to obviously enumerate it? And that is because, like I say, he is emotionally distraught, and he is stumbling and fumbling as to what to say, how to respond to this just hurricane of emotion that Dido has just blasted him with. And so to do it again, it says, I never will deny, O Queen, that you have earned very many things, that you deserved very many things, which you are strong, you are able to enumerate, to count out by speaking. Nor pige bit. Remember, this is an impersonal verb. Impersonal verbs are going to have idiomatically their subjects expressed as it, but I always like to put quotations because that's not really the subject. The subject is going to be, for an impersonal verb, an action, as either expressed by an infinitive or by an ut clause, with the ut often missing, and a subjunctive verb. And so therefore, nor will it pain me to have remembered Elissa. He uses her Phoenician name, not Dido, the official Carthaginian queen name, but Elissa. It shows a moment of intimacy, a moment of tenderness between them. While I myself am mindful of myself. And again, these are stumbling phrases because he doesn't know what to say. He's struggling to come up with the right words to not only, hopefully, defend himself in his decision, but also try and maybe make her feel better, which of course is an impossibility. And then he keeps on going, saying, while my spirit rules these limbs, i.e. while I'm alive. And so while I myself am mindful of myself, you can only be mindful of yourself if you are conscious and alive. And while my spirit, my breath, rules these limbs. In other words, as long as I live, I'm going to think favorably of you, Dido. That's of no help to her. She doesn't want to hear all that, but at least he is making the effort. At least he is trying. And so here we have loquar. Remember that loquar is loquor, loqui, locutus sum. So we have two possibilities here. It could be the future indicative, I will say a few neuter, plural, accusative, substantivized things on behalf of the situation, for the situation, or you can make it the present subjunctive and have it be a jussive or hortatory subjunctive because it is first person. Let me say a few things. It's up to you as to which one you choose. Let me say a few things. I will say a few things on behalf of the situation. I did not hope, I have not hoped to hide, to abscond this flight, furto, in secret. I wasn't trying to do it, obviously, behind your back. And then he goes and gives a command. Ne finge, from fingo fingere. Don't make it up. Don't you say that. Don't make that up. Ne finge. So I did not hope to abscond, to hide this flight in secret. Ne finge. Don't you make that up. Nor ever have I extended the marriage torches of a spouse, or have I come, venio venire, into these agreements, these relationships, these marriage contracts. And so here, for the first time, he's addressing the issue. We weren't married. I didn't consider us married. I can imagine he would be thinking, I didn't consider anything. I was just going along with it. However, I will say in his guilt, he was acting like a husband in some capacity. And so therefore, obviously, Dido don't want to hear all that. You might not have had the paper, you might not have had the marriage contract, but you were acting like a husband, at least in Dido's mind, and I think in other people's view. And so he goes on to say, see. Again, here we have the protasis of a condition. We go and here see that our verb is a imperfect subjunctive, so we are a present contrary to fact. If the fates were allowing pati or pati possessum, this deponent verb, me to lead my life with my auspices, with my own free will, with my own situations, in other words, with him in charge, and if the fates were allowing me to compose my concerns, my emotions, my cares, by my own free will, by my own spontaneity, if you would like, spontis, by my own free will, then, and here is our apodosis, I would be cultivating, colore, the Trojan city, first of all, and the sweet remnants, remains of my and implied peoples. And so his point here that he is making is that if I had a choice in the matter, I wouldn't have even been here to begin with, because if I have a choice in my own life and what happens, I wouldn't want my home city of Troy to have been destroyed to begin with. And that is his point. He then goes on to say that the tall houses of Priam, they would remain in this apodosis. And now for this apodosis, a third one, he is going to now have a pluperfect subjunctive, and thus, indeed, we will translate it would have, as you do translate an apodosis of a past contrary to fact, would have. And I would have placed Troy, i.e. rebuilt it, with my hand, the remnants from those having been conquered. And so again, I would have placed Troy reborn, remnant from the ones having been conquered, and I would have rebuilt it with my hand. That's not the case. The case is, sed nunc, but now. Grynean Apollo. Now, the Lycian oracles They have ordered, usere, from ubio, ubere, usis, they have ordered, implied me, to obtain, capesere, great Italy. That is where I have been instructed by divine order. And then for emphasis, the anaphora of repeating Italy. Let me spell it for you, honey. I-T-A-L-Y, not Carthage. He's being pretty brutal, but I don't think being brutal in order to hurt her feelings, being brutal to let her know there is no hope. There is no chance I'm staying. And so he then goes on to say, this is my love. Italy, not you, not Carthage. This is my homeland. Italy, not you, not Carthage. He then goes on to say, you should understand, as what he says here, if the citadels of Carthage and the view of the Libyan city, Carthage, holds back you, a Phoenician. In other words, you understand what it means to be dedicated and to be obliged to a people, to a city. You should know the position that I am in. No more that could I think that you would come with me and abandon your people, as I can have to stay here and thus abandon my future people. This is the point that he is bringing up. At last, what begrudgment, what invidia, what hatred is there? What begrudgment is there that the accusative Teucrians settle down in the Ausonian land? Why are you hating on us and me leaving to go and do my thing with my people, when in fact there's no chance you would have even left your people and Carthage? And now, and it is divinely right that we, accusative and your infinitive verb, and it is divinely approved, a right thing, that we seek foreign kingdoms, external kingdoms. He then goes on to say other issues, and he brings up the imago, the image, and it is indeed a turbid image. The image of my dad Anchises admonishes me in my sleeps and terrifies me in my sleeps. And this happens, quotianes, as often as the night covers the lands with dripping shadows, dewy shadows, and as often as the fiery stars rise. Every single night I have dreams, and it's my dad and the image coming to me and warning me and terrifying me, letting me know, you have a destiny, you gotta move on. He then goes on to say, the boy Ascanius admonishes and terrifies me. And the injury of his dear head. I don't know if it's talking about the instance where they were in Troy and making a decision as to whether we're going to go or not, and Anchises initially refusing the father, but then all of a sudden the gods give an omen of Ascanius' hair catching on fire. And from that omen, Anchises agrees to go and put on Aeneas' back. The boy Ascanius warns me, admonishes me, terrifies me in my sleeps. The boy whom I defraud from the kingdom of Hesperia, and I defraud from the fatal fields. I.e., if I were to stay here, I would be doing wrong my dad in the generation before me, who's telling me, go on with your fate and your destiny, get to Italy. And then I would be obviously doing my own son wrong without allowing him the opportunity to succeed in this new civilization, this new city that I will obviously have going on in Italy. And then, of course, the coup de grace. Who can argue with divine intervention? And now even a messenger of the gods, Divorum, having been sent from Jupiter himself, I swear by each head Testor is a deponent verb meaning to swear, in which he's saying, like, I'm telling you, I swear it, an actual God came and talked to me. Now you can imagine, if indeed, if this was brought up, the person that indeed is being told this to, that, yeah, right, like the gods came down and talked to you personally. But he's saying, I swear it on each head, my head, your head. It happened just like this. That messenger of the gods, having been sent by Jupiter himself, he brought down mandates, commands through the swift breezes. I, Weedy, myself, I saw him. I saw the God in manifest light. We would say in broad daylight. I'm telling you, first-hand account. God came down and talked to me. Nevertheless, I saw that God entering the walls, and I drank in, hario haurire, his voice with these ears. And so that's his coup de grace. I have got it owed to my son, owed to my father, and the gods themselves have told me to leave. You can't argue that. And then he, of course, stops it right there by saying, desine, desist, stop it. And with desino, desinere, you will often have an infinitive. Stop from inflaming, desist to inflame both me and you with your complaints. Querula, querulae. He's basically saying, stop going on and on. And you're upsetting not only yourself, but you're upsetting me. I understand that this is an emotionally bad time. Nobody would have ever picked this, but this is the way that it is, and this is the way that it has to be. Stop to inflame both me and you with your complaints. I do not follow Italy by my own will, by my own spontaneity, by my own idea, sponte. And so that ends it. Now, this next part is not in the syllabus. It used to be a long, long time ago, but I just want to read, just for funs and giggles, down to the comma because it is awesome, the reaction. It says, she turned away. She won't even look at him, as you can imagine. Watches, observes the guy talking such things for such a long time. In her mind, she's thinking, he just won't shut up. And this is the best part. Turned away, can't even stand to look at him. Watches the one talking such things for such a long time. And here she turned away, woe wanes, rolling her eyes this way and that way. She doesn't want to hear his nonsense because there is nothing that he could say to where it's going to make the situation better. He can bring the facts all he wants. He can open up a PowerPoint. She won't want to hear any of it because of the pain and anguish and emotions that she is undergoing. All right, so that's it for those lines. Good luck and keep studying.